Why did I want to become a firefighter? Something that I felt was a bit of a calling, even though I didn't know it was a calling for me.
Most people's understanding of what a firefighter is, a person who is waiting and ready to go when 911 dispatch starts coming their way. That's what a full-time career firefighter does, but the reality is that somewhere between 70 and 80% of the firefighters working in Canada are volunteer firefighters.
Really, the only difference between full-time and ourselves is that they'll stay in the hall when the call is rung. We're at our homes. We're at our work when the pagers go off, and that's the real difference. The other difference is we get paid for when we show up. And we have standards here as well, is that you have to make so many calls. You have to make so much training.
Once you get in the truck and go, there's not a huge difference in the job.
Because fire doesn't care whether you're a volunteer or career. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get hurt. It's really important these guys are trained.
When we started, it was kind of, the calls were small, like maybe 70 calls a year. And I would say the last year I worked, we were up 500 calls a year.
There's always the conversation about a shortage of volunteer firefighters. It's an urgent need because in some cases, the call for firefighters is a life or death situation, right?
The state of the union now is that there's less and less people getting into it for the full volunteer experience. I think a lot of people are trying to get into it because they want to be career firefighters. It's a great calling as well. The catch to it is, in a community like ours, it's a bedroom community. People don't live here. So they're driving somewhere else to go to work. In the past, a lot of these rural communities, they were working in their community. So it wasn't really a big deal. Now you're missing some of those daytime people who would run those calls. I think if you asked any department, you'll find that they're really having trouble getting people. Part of it is volunteerism is not for everyone. When I was growing up, coming out of university, I don't want to make myself an old dog, but there was less to do. Now, there is so much more to do. There's more sports teams to go watch. There's more things to do. There's just more that you can get yourself active around. And part of this was that culture of your community of that was what you were doing, and that's going away. The volunteer departments will have to adjust if they are going to survive.
We have historically been a little bit understaffed with volunteer firefighters, and so we're constantly looking at ways to get more people working and helping in that role. But we're now in a growing community that's evolving, whereas small communities are still shorthanded.
I was on a wet sort of Sunday morning, and when I got to him, we worked him on the lawn for over an hour. I think it was probably maybe my first medical call where I had a VSA, so that was somebody whose heart had stopped. So you hear about how you do CPR on someone and they come back to life and life is good. And this particular person got him in the ambulance. By the time I got to the hospital, my fingers were blistering from working the bag, and the medical staff of the hospital just said, okay, stop, we're not doing any more, let him go. Thought, well, this is not how this is supposed to work out. This is supposed to end with this guy waking up and everything is hunky-dory, and that's just not the case.
I was at a car accident, and a young girl was killed. She was T-boned. Even to today, it makes me want to cry. She was a friend. I get there with the ambulance, and the ambulance and I pronounce her. We leave the scene. The community is pretty rocked because she's young. So I went to the funeral, and I'm talking to one of the sisters. She knows I'm a firefighter, but she doesn't know I was there for the call. I said, I just want to let you know that your sister was as beautiful in death as she was in life. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, your sister didn't suffer. When I got to the car accident, it looked like she was sleeping. She looked like the angel that she was. And she's just like floored. And we go to one of those ante rooms with her parents and we talk. I see them in the community still. And they say that's probably one of the single most things that helped us get through that, is that we know she didn't suffer. She passed quickly and safely, and she was in the care. It's okay. It's one of those things where you just can't, right? Anyway, so, yeah, that's probably the biggest movement, the biggest thing I had in my career. Seeing people, die. I didn't save her. I didn't change anything. We blocked traffic. But probably the biggest thing that impacted my life was helping a family go through a grieving process of losing a daughter. And it wasn't my story to hold. It was my story to share so that we could get through it together. To this day, they still wave at me and say hi.
So when I went to school, I wanted the car accent. You know, I wanted the car upside down or in the canal. And that's not the reality of the job in a lot of cases. The reality of the job is you're a social worker.
When you go through these things, you wear every call. You own every call afterwards, and it's like a drip of water. The first 5 doesn't affect you, but after 30 years, it does.
If you're willing to volunteer, then you sort of look inside yourself to see that there are other people that you might want to put ahead of you to be able to assist them in some way. And you got to be prepared to leave Thanksgiving dinner when the pager goes off, because it does become part of your life. It's a newfound responsibility that you go when the pager goes.
I think as a volunteer firefighter, you're probably inclined to want to give of your time and your services and your abilities.
We do this because it's something you want to do. You never really do it for the pay because there's not enough in it.
To ask someone to willingly risk their life with no compensation can be a big ask. I think that there really is no price you can put on someone's life, but I believe that it is fair and reasonable to reward the volunteer firefighters who do sacrifice not just the physical risk, but you're giving up a lot of your time with your family. I remember waking up to a call early Christmas morning one time. My kids were young, but somebody's kitchen was on fire. I went to that call. I sacrificed being home with my kids on a Christmas morning so I could go help out somebody whose house was on fire. I think it's nice to recognize the sacrifice of the time, and it's not just the firefighter who personally loses when they leave, but the family that they left behind, right? Mom or dad isn't there. My family understands if volunteers don't respond, then whoever called 911 isn't gonna get the help they need.
It's funny when you think about why we're here, no one wants to miss a call. If I go up north and there's a house fire, I'm like, really? I just left an hour ago and now we're having these calls. I'm like, come on, really? Because we train for it. I think firefighting it's either for you or it's not. You can't fake your passion.
I've got 3 years left of a career that spans 42 years. So yeah, I take great satisfaction in saying, hey, I've done my bit, and when I retire, I'll walk away my head held high.
We're very community-oriented, being volunteer firefighters. We live in our community that we work in. So being a part of the community, we like to give back. So we do a lot of fundraising for charities. We give several $1,000s a year to our local community through the fundraising efforts that we do. We'll also participate in things like the Santa Claus Parade. People are excited to see the trucks in the parade with the lights and sirens and so on, and the kids are excited. So there's a lot of different ways that we are involved outside of our job, responding to emergencies. We like to help out whenever we can. I've enjoyed doing this the whole time, from the training that we do, the challenges that we face, learning new things. I've been very rewarded, very satisfied by experiencing the growth that I've personally felt that I've had over the last 11 years of my volunteer career.
As a firefighter, seeing the smiles and seeing the impact you make, that's rewarding. And I feel lucky to be part of that.